If I've learned anything from being an American billionaire, it's that most things are better when they're open, the one exception being the mouths of the underclass. But guitar tuning should be no different. So today, we're talking about open C, my new favorite alternate tuning, okay? So, a lot of this is going to be fingerstyle, so I don't want to get too far into the picking. I'll talk a little bit about it, but if you want to learn more about fingerstyle, I'll make my fingerstyle class half off. It's linked in the description. But basically, what I've done is I've down-tuned every single string on this guitar. So instead of E, A, D, G, B, E, we have C, G, C, E, G, C. Okay? So what that means is when you just strum all 6 strings, you're getting nothing but C, E, and G notes, making a C major chord. Okay? The nice thing about that is anytime you bar any of the frets, you'll get another major chord. So C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, so on and so forth, right? Now in any key, there's only 3 major chords really technically staying inside the key. So the nice thing about this is you get your C, F, and G chord just being open for 5th fret, the 4 chord is on the 5th fret, and then the 5 chord G is on the 7th fret. So C, F, and G. Okay? Now, it's really kind of interesting because instead of maybe just using this one bar chord to do shapes, because again, that's only going to give you major chord shapes, I think a nice way to actually go about it is to play the major chords like this. Okay, so this is what would be a minor 7 chord shape in standard tuning. Basically, my middle finger is on the lowest string here, I'm skipping the next highest string, and then I'm getting the next 3. Okay, so this is just an F major chord. Now this is a really basic fingerstyle pattern that we'll probably be using for a lot of this. My thumb is just jumping back between the 6th string and the 4th string. I'm actually going to try to refer to this as 6 and 4 because I actually think of this as strings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a whole other story. I'm trying to do this for the people, so I'm going to try to name the strings correctly because I'm actually not an American billionaire. I'm actually from Ireland. But yeah, basically we have, this is going to be a major shape. And the reason why I like getting out ahead of it like this, aside from just being able to maybe more easily play something like that, is because even though it's easy just to kind of like slap your finger across all 6 strings, on an acoustic guitar that can still, you know, kind of cause hand fatigue and stuff like that. So this is a much easier chord voicing that is still going to give us the major chords and also opens it up to minor chord voicings. So real quick, let's just talk about this one pattern that we'll do, and we'll do it without fretting anything. So again, it's a 4 count, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the thumb is just going back and forth like this, from the 6th string to the 4th string. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. On the 2 count, my middle finger's gonna grab that 2nd string up. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, the and of 3, my pointer finger's grabbing the 3rd string. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. The and of 4, my middle finger grabs the 2nd string again. That's basically the entire picking pattern. Definitely check out the course if you want to learn more about just tons of different patterns and stuff, right? Now, the cool thing about, we'll get into all the notes in the scale, but the nice thing about visually thinking about just the open string set being a chord, the 5th fret being a chord, and the 7th fret being a chord, is you can actually kind of make a mini scale type thing, because if we're just using all the notes on the 5th fret and all the notes on the 7th fret, a scale could look like this. 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7. Okay? Now it sounds almost pentatonic-y, but not quite, okay? And that's what really kind of opens up a lot of different options, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take that fingerstyle pattern, and then maybe I'll just start adding random notes from the B string, the 2nd string, right? Right? And it already sounds interesting. It sounds kind of... And those are just kind of combinations of notes that I might not be able to obtain in standard tuning, right? And I'm really just kind of like getting random spots in between the 5th and the 7th fret. It's always going to sound good, okay? Now, before we talk more about this major third, this E string now, which was the G string, I want to talk about just power chords, okay? The nice thing about this tuning is C, G, and C just make a power chord. It's not major or minor. Most of what we're going to be talking about today is going to be in the key of C major. There's an infinite amount of things that you can do in all sorts of keys with this tuning, but we're starting at the basics of C major. A lot of people tune their guitars to open tuning to play in that tuning. Doesn't mean you have to stay there, like I said, but there's so much to get into because, you know, you can do as much in an open tuning as you can in a standard tuning. But now, just the lowest 3 strings, it's going to give you a power chord, not major or minor. So we can go through all the notes in the key of C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and play like a power chord, and it'll sound more or less right until we get to the B. C, D, E, F, G, A, B. We can change that in a second. Back to C. Okay? Really important to think about it in intervals. Again, the interval of the major scale is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Something you should definitely have memorized, and I think it makes a little more sense doing it across one string, essentially, right? Because that root note C, a whole step from there is D. Whole, whole, half. Just memorize it in 2 chunks. Whole, whole, half. Whole, 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 half. Open 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 12. Okay? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay? So, basically you can just kind of run those power chords just along low strings. Technically, if you want to give me a hard time about it, that B can't be a power chord in this key. It would have what's called a flat 5, so it would look like this, where it's 11, 10, 11. But whatever, you know what I mean? Come on. Now, once we get to that E string, that's where things get dicey, but that's also where things get really, really pretty. So I think a great way to think of this E string is think about a low E string on a standard tuned guitar. Now, the bass notes or the root notes of the low E string were the first notes I ever had memorized on a guitar because it's where you kind of plant and root a lot of your chords, right? So before I even knew what a scale was, I knew that open was E, the first fret was F, the third fret was G from doing those different shapes on a guitar, right? The same thing applies, but we're thinking in the key of C. So E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Again, just like the lowest string of standard tuning. Think of that if you have those notes memorized, or just kind of think of those things as different things you can throw in, right? I can start doing okay? Now, again, that third C, D, E is what makes the chord major or minor, okay? Which is why we've got open, 5th fret, 7th fret being C, F, G. We could easily take the other minor chord spots and just make one variation of that shape to get the minor chords, right? So let's go to E. The 4th fret now, right? C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. That's E major. You can use the E major chord in the key of C if you want, but more traditionally, you'll find the E minor there. So what we have to do is we have to go to the 3rd string and flatten it. Like that, right? Remember, E, F, G. And then everything else can stay on the 4th fret. So this is going to be kind of our minor chord shape. Middle finger, 4. I'm going to skip that 5th string, 4, 3, 2. That's going to be our E minor chord. Now you can open up any of these notes. Like let's take the pinky off. Take the pointer finger off. Take your middle finger off. Well, that's kind of interesting, right? So you can kind of get cool combinations just by removing these. Otherwise, you'll find these on the 2nd fret, the 4th fret, and the 9th fret. Okay? Those are going to be where the minor chords are found. So all together we would have C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, then we've got that B diminished again, back to C major, okay? Now, again, that's just in the key of C major, which you would think is really common because you can always resolve home just by hitting the open string set, all right? All you have to do to think of playing in C minor is just take care of that E string, right? There's the octave, flatten it. And then all of a sudden it's C minor, right? And then you can kind of track where that is, among other things. But I really think it's cool to kind of take different root notes, think about the intervals of the major scale, and then just kind of combine other things that you know. Because if we take off the minor or major third string, which would be the third string, believe it or not, just pretend it's not there, right? We're always going to have just those same frets open 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 12, right? Again, you can give me a hard time about the B diminished chord. I'm not really going to pay attention to that. But you can really kind of combine that with a lot of cool open stuff in between, right? And then really play anything you want over just kind of like a C major chord. The first thing I would do is I would look for a major 7 chord voicing. I would find a B to add to that C chord. One of the easiest ways to do that is just think of the octave and then just play the melody way up top, right? Same thing with the F. G can stay the same or be like a dominant 7. It's all about intervals, right? So, really, I think it's super fun tuning to kind of get into. You can get as in-depth in that. Let me know if you want like more different stuff because I'm starting to kind of do more writing in this just because I think once you get out of the traditional shapes that you use for just standard tuning, you kind of surprise your ear more and you end up writing things that maybe normally you wouldn't have written in standard tuning. And it's just another reason to buy another guitar. For the longest time, it's like, well, why do you need so many guitars? It's like, well, what if I want to keep these in different tunings? And then I would just keep them all in standard tuning. Or maybe I'd have one down a step or a half step. But now, hey, tune it to whatever you want. The thing that actually inspired me to do this was to learn Independence Day by Elliott Smith. That's a really cool song that's in open C tuning. But again, there's tons of them. Even more in open D or open E. Which, again, the same principles apply as far as just, hitting the open string set, letting it ride, and then going 5/7. No matter how you tune it, if you're in open E, that's going to be the 1 chord, 5 frets or 2.5 steps is going to be the 4 chord, a step higher than that, 2 frets higher than that is going to be the 5 chord. Those principles are going to be the same in pretty much any open tuning, but some of the smaller stuff as far as like where you put the minor third, where you have the root in the 5th might differ. But basically, it's just like really cool tuning, and I think everybody should check it out. So if you have any questions or comments, hit them in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.